My friend, this story is different from the ones I usually tell. Nobody dies in this story. The man I want to tell you about, Arthur Walsh, called me last Sunday evening, as he has every Sunday evening for 3 years. But last Sunday was different. Last Sunday, he finally asked me what he had been calling about. And I've been thinking about his question every day since. I want to think about it with you. Arthur Walsh is 79 years old. He was a high school history teacher here in Stowe for 32 years. He and his wife Ruth have been married for 54 years. Ruth was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2020. She was 76. She now lives in a memory care facility 8 minutes from the house they've shared for 40 years. Arthur visits every day. He brings her coffee, the specific coffee she always drank, with oat milk, no sugar. She does not know his name. She does not know he is her husband. But she accepts the coffee, and sometimes she smiles. Arthur considers this a full day. 3 years ago, he started calling me every Sunday evening, 1 hour after the prayer service at the memory care facility, where he sits beside Ruth every week, even though she doesn't know he is beside her. Every Sunday, without fail, for 3 years. I want to tell you what those calls were like. They were short, 8 minutes, maybe 10, always in the evening, always beginning the same way. Father, how was your week? And I would tell him the small things. A parishioner who had a new grandchild, whether the boiler in the rectory was still acting up, what the week's gospel had brought up in me. And he would ask about everyone. How is Mrs. O'Connor doing? Is the Paulson family settled in the new house? Did the youth group fundraiser go well? He asked about everyone. He never asked about himself. In 3 years of Sunday calls, Arthur Walsh never once said, "Father, I'm struggling," or "Father, I don't know how to keep doing this," or "Father, it was a hard week." He just called and asked about everyone and listened to the answers. I want to tell you something about those calls. I looked forward to them. Not because they were profound, they weren't. They were 8 minutes of weather and parish news. I looked forward to them because Arthur Walsh called every Sunday, and every Sunday I knew, this man is still standing. And that mattered to me. And I think, on some level, the call mattered to him, even if neither of us said so. I want to tell you about Ruth, before I tell you what Arthur asked me. Ruth Walsh is, the kind of woman who remembered everyone. Not just names, everything. She remembered that your sister had moved to Tucson in 2004. She remembered that you preferred your tea with lemon, not milk. She remembered the specific face you made at the last parish dinner when the potatoes were undercooked. And she made a note. And the next year, the potatoes were perfect. She was the keeper of the small things. In a marriage of 54 years, she was the one who held all the details of their shared life. Arthur remembered the dates. Ruth remembered everything else. When the Alzheimer's came, the small things went first, then the medium things, then the large things. Arthur's name was somewhere in between. He told me once, not on a Sunday call, this was a conversation after Mass, he told me that the first time Ruth looked at him and didn't know who he was standing in their kitchen making the eggs. He said, she looked at me and said, very politely, "Are you the man who comes for breakfast?" He said he answered, Yes. And he made the eggs, and he sat down, and they had breakfast together. He said it was one of the best breakfasts of his life. Last Sunday, Arthur called at his usual time. The small talk went as usual, 8 minutes of weather and parish news, and then a pause that was different from the other pauses. He said, "Father, I have a question. I've been wanting to ask it for 3 years, but I haven't known how to put it." I said, "Ask it." He said, "Does it count as connection if the other person doesn't know they're connected to you?" My friend, I want to be honest with you. I didn't have an answer. Not immediately. I sat with the question. I thought about Ruth accepting the coffee every morning without knowing who brought it. I thought about Arthur sitting beside her at the evening prayer service, listening to hymns she can't name but still hums along to. I thought about what it means to love someone who cannot give you the name back. And I want to ask you the same question. Before I tell you what I said, does it count as connection, my friend, if the other person doesn't know they're connected to you? And I want to ask you the same question before I tell you what I said. Does it count as connection, my friend, if the other person doesn't know they're connected to you? I've been thinking about it for a week. I don't have a clean answer. Maybe you do. I'd be glad to hear it if you want to tell me. Here is what I told Arthur. I said to Arthur, "I think you're asking the wrong question. You're asking, does she know you're connected? But I think the real question is, does her body know you are safe?" He was quiet. I said, "Arthur, when you walk into that room, something in Ruth settles. You've told me that. She doesn't know your name. She doesn't know you're her husband. But something in her knows this person is safe. This person brings warmth. This person has been coming a long time. That is not nothing. That might be everything." Arthur was quiet for a long time, and then he said, "She hummed something today when I sat down beside her. I don't know if she knew she was doing it, but she hummed our song, the one from our first dance." I said, "Tell me about that dance." And Arthur Walsh talked for 45 minutes. He told me about a dance in Burlington, Vermont in 1967. He was 22, she was 21. She was wearing a blue dress. He didn't know how to dance. She did. He said, "She took my hand and said, 'Just follow me.' And I have been following her ever since." He told me about 54 years. Not the big things, the small ones. The way she always opened car windows, even in the winter. The way she called their daughter every Sunday and their son every Thursday. The way she read the same 3 novels every year in order, starting in January. He told me all of it. At some point I realized he doesn't have anyone else to tell this to. His children call, they are good children, but they are managing their own grief about their mother. They cannot hold his grief while holding their own. His friends, the friends from before, most of them are gone now, or far away. Or their own lives have narrowed the way lives narrow at 79. The Sunday calls were not about the weather. They were Arthur Walsh's way of saying, "I am still here. Someone knows I am still here. Someone will pick up." At the end of the call, 45 minutes after telling me about the blue dress and the dance and 54 years of small things, Arthur said, "Father, Thank you for picking up every Sunday for 3 years. Thank you for picking up. I told him, I will keep picking up, Arthur, every Sunday for as long as you call. I've been thinking about Arthur and Ruth all week, my friend. I think about Arthur in the memory care facility, pulling the chair close to Ruth's, not because she asked him to, not because she'll remember, just because that is where he sits. There is a word for what Arthur does every morning in that facility. It is not duty. Duty is something you do because you said you would. What Arthur does is something else. He brings the specific coffee. He pulls the specific chair close. He sits beside a woman who calls him the man who comes for breakfast, and he considers this a full day. I've been a priest for 53 years. I have sat with people in their last rooms. I have watched people love and be loved. I want to say this carefully. What Arthur Walsh does every morning in that memory care facility is one of the purest forms of love I have ever witnessed. Not because Ruth receives it fully, but because Arthur gives it anyway. Without needing her to know his name, without needing her to call him husband, without needing anything in return except she accepts the coffee, and sometimes she smiles. That hum, my friend, she hummed their song. She doesn't know where she learned it. She doesn't know it is their song. But somewhere deeper than Alzheimer's can reach, somewhere in the body that remembers even when the mind cannot, she hummed it when he sat down beside her. My friend, Arthur's question has stayed with me. Does it count as connection if the other person doesn't know they're connected to you? I think it does. I think it is, in fact, the oldest and most honest form of connection there is. Paul writes to the Corinthians, and this is the passage I return to. Love never fails. Not love is always received, not love always gets acknowledged. Love never fails. The love doesn't fail when Ruth doesn't know Arthur's name. The love doesn't fail when she calls him the man who comes for breakfast. The love doesn't fail when she has no word for what he is to her. The love is still there. It is still being given. It still lands somewhere, in the body that settles when he enters, in the hands that accept the coffee, in the hum that rises when he sits close. Arthur asked me if it counts. I want to tell you what I actually believe. The love that has nothing to land on, the love that goes unrecognized, unrewarded, unremembered, that love is not wasted. That love is the most refined version of the thing, because it has been stripped of everything except itself. If you're listening tonight, my friend, and you love someone who cannot fully receive it, I want you to hear what I told Arthur. The coffee counts. The chair pulled close counts. The song she hums without knowing why she hums it, that counts. You are not loving into nothing. And if you are the one receiving care from someone you may not always know, I want you to know they are there. They have been there. Something in you knows they are safe, even if you don't have the word for it. Arthur Walsh calls me every Sunday. He will call this Sunday, and I will pick up. If there is someone in your life who needs to hear that what they are giving counts, that is why I tell these stories. Heavenly Father, for everyone who loves someone who cannot give them the name back, for Arthur, for every Arthur, let them know the coffee counts. The chair counts. The showing up every day without being asked. It counts. It is seen, even if she doesn't know his name. In your Son's name, Amen.